Guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to another fun-filled Wednesday night here at the spare room. Hey, Chirpy. Couldn't sleep. Don't know if there's a lot happening here, really. I don't know if I've done very much. There's some parcels come in, but nothing exciting. Still awake. Oh my gosh. That's a little bit crazy. There's not really very much that I've done. I've planned some projects. I've done a little bit on my traction engine. As the introduction video went up this week, which is the first video in the series. We're up to part 16 or something I'm working on at the moment. So there's a fair bit of a video there. Most of the videos are about 25-30 minutes long. I've tried to keep them under 30 minutes. Some of them I've split in half, but it's nuts and bolts hands-on how to build this. If you're following the series and you want to build one, the castings are available. Email me about 3D patterns for the castings if you want to build one. All that sort of stuff. So I have put the first video up, and 300 people, something like that, have watched that so far. It only went up last night. I made the comment that it was delayed, and it is, because that video first went up on YouTube in February, something like that, and it's taken me that long to get through the series to the point that I know I'm going to get it finished fairly soon. And I want to get those videos up on YouTube so people can enjoy them. Hey, Cam. Thanks for that. And that's all okay, but we're not going to have a 6-month lag between when I make things and when I put them up. It's only going to be for some projects and one long-running project at a time. I'm just tossing up ideas of what the next one's going to be, but it will be quite a serious project. So they're going to go up on YouTube eventually, but they're on Patreon now because people are paying $4 a month, which is amazing. It's kind of, it makes my head spin a bit, but you know who you are. Thanks. So I don't believe that my YouTube content's going to suffer because of that. It's suffering at the moment because of work, but that is something that we've got out of the way now, which is amazing. We've got to the point that I'm having 2-day weekends, and I might even have some time off soon, so we can get that all sorted. And pretty impressed about that. Anyway, that's enough of that. Marcus Christensen at Christensen Machine Works, friend here on the Gold Coast, got me a length of pretty hard 4140, 20 millimeters. Now, I'm going to make chuck arbors out of that, or arbors for 2 little Sherline chucks I've managed to procure. And I'm also going to have a go at making some collets out of it. Now, before you all think that I've gone stark raving mad, I have made collets in the past with reasonable success, and there are ways to do it and get them accurate. And it's all fairly basic setup and machining. I'm waiting on some tungsten carbide tooling. I finally got to the 21st century and bought tungsten carbide tooling to turn this. And I'm waiting on the chucks to know how to best make these work. But that's a project that's coming pretty soon, and I can't wait to get into that. There's a fair bit of that, so we'll see how we go. But eventually, that'll turn into collets that look something like this. There's a few missing, and we'll see how we go with that. We'll see. Haven't done anything at all to the engraving machine. It's just hasn't happened this week. I had one day off. I made a burner for the traction engine. I made some bits for that. I edited a video. I did some painting. I did some chores around the house. That was about it. So the engraving machine hasn't had any progress at all. We're back exactly where we started. This come, which is, people seem to be interested in this. I know it's tricky and fiddly work. It's doable, and I've made concentric arbors and collets before that work. So I think I've got the gear to do it, but we'll see. And the last ones I made were sort of more this size, which is WW 8mm. So the bigger ones might be easier, I hope. Little bird. These bits come for the power feed on the mill, and this is a project I'm pretty keen to get on with. I showed you this, which is a NEMA 17 stepper motor, which should be strong enough, I think, to power that little mill. If it's not, we might have to upgrade. I don't know much about this stuff, but my friend Adam kind of gave me a shopping list, and this is the control board apparently. A lot of you guys will know more about this than me. I believe that the power supply hooks in here somewhere and some switches, and the motor goes on those pins somehow. I really sound a bit dumb there, but I'm not an expert. It's got a forward and reverse switch and an on-off switch. Hey Mark, how are you? You're up early. And a potentiometer for speed control. So a lot of people will know more about this than me, but I guess the first thing is to hook it up and see if I can make it work. And when I do, we'll see. We'll make a housing for it and some pulleys and things. It doesn't look like it's a huge job, but just a matter of getting to it. That was Little Bird Electronics in Sydney anyway. They sent a sticker with it, so I might put that up somewhere. I've got a heap of stickers to put up, and I've got to extend my sticker board. That's where we're at with that. So if you've sent me a sticker, and you haven't seen it here, it either hasn't arrived, like stickers that I send to you, which is a bit crap actually. I don't know what's happened there. Or I haven't got room for it, which is more likely. So probably this whiteboard's going to get a clean up, and they're... what do we got here? Let's move this up here. This whiteboard's going to get a clean up, and probably the hot marks are going to come off it if they do. And we're going to put a surround around it for stickers, and then keep the whiteboard as a whiteboard is the idea. But we'll see what happens. I've got a lot of duplicates of some of these stickers, so some of them will stay on, some of them I think will peel off, some of them can be replaced. We'll see what happens. But hopefully we can repurpose this board a little bit better. I don't know what else there is to show you. I got a new machine this week, which is pretty cool. I think it's fairly messy, and of course there's no room at all in this workshop for it. Next minute. This is what I got. I've just bumped the camera. Sorry. This turned up from a friend who'd bought it and then had problems with it and wanted to move it on. And it does have problems. It's got a table that folds. It's sort of got a table here, and then this folds up vertically, and it's got I might send some more. Chirpy, I might send some more stickers. I'm feeling a bit crap about that. Sorry. This has got a switch problem, I think. Maybe someone else. We have an electrician in the room. We have an electrician in the room, which is awesome. I think this is a switch problem, right? My friend who gave it to me said it was probably a capacitor problem. Now, it's got a single phase motor. And it doesn't work. It works sometimes. Quite often it just does that. You can hear the start switch clicking in and out. So I'm guessing it's got a new capacitor in it, apparently, a new starter capacitor in it. And it all works, but sometimes when you pull this switch out, and it's not going to now, it's going to work every single time. There, see? Nothing happens. It doesn't just sit here and buzz. It works. If I give that a couple of turns and then pull the... it's going to do it every time. But sometimes... There, see? I can't hear any buzzing. So whether it's a switch or whether there's something else happening, I'm not sure. So at some point I need to get to the bottom of that. But I need a bench for this and a vacuum sort of attachment for it, or some duct or something to put the vacuum cleaner on it, because it's the most dusty machine. So I'm not sure what's wrong with that. If anyone's got any insight, leave me a comment. I'd like to have it running. This table needs some work. And a few other things too, and it could do with a coat of paint probably. See, that's on. Turning it on doesn't fix it. So that's what makes me think it's not It's not a starter problem. It's something to do with something else. It could be a wiring problem or a switch problem even. So I'm not real sure. But the truth is I need another machine like a hole in the head, but it was at the right price and it'll be useful for some pattern making. The wires in the bottom here, we're going to run downhill a bit here so you can see. The wires in the bottom here are very, very short, and if you unscrew this they come unplugged, and they're really a struggle to get plugged in again. They're just spade terminals on lugs sticking straight back, and I think that's where the issue is. Thanks, Cam. Great idea. I might do that. It's a pretty heavy duty machine. I guess it's probably Australian. I don't know who made it. If anyone has any clues, let me know. This is pressed metal, the base. This seems to be aluminium, and this is aluminium, this table. The rest just pressed steel. And it's got a 1/2 horsepower motor on it. So there's a belt adjuster on this end here. As you can see that in the view. And some adjustment here to keep the belt straight. So that's probably a pretty cool thing to have if I can find some bench space for it somewhere out of the way, and organise some sort of a sheeting on here for a vacuum cleaner attachment. So anyway, new toy. Like we really needed one. It is pretty heavy too. The reason I got it is because, hey there, great series, Tommy Gunn, on the gearbox. Is pretty good fun. No, it's awesome. Go and check it out, everyone. It's a fun series. JB from Oz sent me this box, which is laser cut. Unfortunately, one of these pieces have gone missing in the last little while, and I've no idea where it is. And when it turns up, I'll finish it. But I need a linisher like that to finish this off. This is a box for my surface plate. Which is not quite going rusty. It needs some oil on it probably tonight before I put it away. It's got a bit of discoloration in it. And it needs a rub to see how far it's moved over the last 12 months since it's been cast, in 2 years. I could, I guess. This is a fairly nice surface plate now. This box is to store it. It's a project I started 12 months ago. And I've got it to the point where this is about 20 points the inch. And I'm really pleased with it. I've scraped it. It's not too shabby at all. I think I made handles for it. Just a little test plate. It needs a box. And probably I'd like to make a decent cupboard lock or something for it. Out of brass and some hinges. And get it going. So that's the reason I need a linisher, is to finish this up, because finishing it by hand was just too much work. But I need to find the other piece yet. It'll happen. So that's another thing I can move on with and get that ready, and I might scrape that again. It's interesting to see. Chris Anderson had these cast at old iron shops in California, and I got one of the first ones, and I finished it off and got it somewhere near where I like it. But it'd be interesting to see if it's moved in the last couple of years, 12 months. That's something I brought back from America with me. So that's another project. Like, we already had enough of them. Anyway, apart from that, there's not a lot of progress on anything. It's been a bit of a quiet week. But I just thought I'd log on for a minute and show you all new toys. Got some reamers off eBay. Always looking for little reamers. There's this one's 16th, 0.625 inch. Is not a very big fella, but for model engineering work it's nice to have them, and I've been looking for them for a while. This one's 1/8. They're straight, they're not helical, they're straight. I think this one's 532 and this one must be 332. So now I've got a set of reamers in sizes that I use all the time. That's a problem, Mark. It really is. We should hit someone up, probably Joe Pye or someone, to make us a video. Robin, if you're watching this, or Joe, if you're watching this, or Tom Lipton, if you're watching this. Anyone else might be watching this who is much more knowledgeable. Bruce, if you're watching this, give us a video on how to measure reamers so we know what size they're going to cut. That is a really awesome thing to do. If you're listening, I might send some emails too, or some messages. That would be an awesome thing to do. I'd really appreciate that, and I think a lot of us would. There's got to be a way to do it. There will be some projects happening. There's that ellipse chuck that I need to get the rest of the castings for before I start. It's no good getting it started and then discovering that we're waiting another 12 months for 2 cast iron castings for it. Hopefully, if it doesn't rain too hard this weekend, I might even get up to the foundry. I need to get a new set of castings for the traction engine for someone who's bought a set on Etsy. Probably they might have those cast iron castings done, and if they're not, they haven't, or if it's not going to happen, well, I'll get the patterns back and I'll send them to America and see what we can find. But there's not a lot of point working on that project or moving on in that project until I've got the rest of the castings. Hey, John. It's Treadmill Man. Good to see ya. So, the Collet project's the next project that's going to need all my machines and most of my resources and most of my brain power. A lock for this box is going to be something else that's going to need some shaper work and some mill work. Everyone needs a horizontal mill for their birthday. It's a pretty useful thing, and you can do most things with a horizontal mill that you can do with a vertical mill. Just a bit more messing around. I need to get a reversing switch on it at some point. And I've got a VFD, and the motor's on back order somewhere. And I need to get a switch box. All expensive things. And then I can wire it up and get it running both ways. At the moment, I've got a little job set up in there to finish my clapper box for my shaper. Hey, Andrew. I'm not sure I can really comment on that boat anchor comment, John. I think we'll just ignore you. How big is it, Chirpy? What do you got in mind? And you got to haul the thing home. How big is this mill? How many ton does it weigh? Okay, it's a pretty reasonable sized mill. What was I going to say about? Yeah, no idea. See, the trouble is, Chirpy, then you're going to need a bigger lathe. You're going to need a bigger shaper. You're probably going to need a vertical mill. You're probably going to need a planing machine. Now, it's not going to stop there. Cam's getting on pretty well with his slotting attachment. That's quite a machine. That's quite a project. There's lots and lots of bits. Yes, you definitely, Chirpy, are going to need a Rose engine. That's a given. Probably a straight line engine and a minimum. a wood lathe for patterns. It's not going to stop. It's Cam, it's going to be a fun project. I'm really enjoying that. It's good to see you pull reasonable machines out of scrap plate. I really enjoy videos like that. You don't do anything to a rose engine, Chirpy. This is why I don't own one, and why I've never ever invested time into thinking about building one. Is what you actually have with a rose engine is a project for the rest of time that you can actually make parts for and not actually ever use for anything useful. So you have like a basic machine, and then there's 250 amazing engine turn brass attachments to make for it, all with their own gears and gear trains and belt drives and ellipse cams and all those sort of things. And that's all you do for the next 40 or 50 years is make parts for the rose engine. So that's how that actually works. So and yes, when you get a rose engine, you don't need a bigger shed. You need a bigger office. That's where that moves into. And I don't think at this point that I could ever justify a project that is never ever going to be finished. My days of that are past. Lots of short, sweet projects is awesome. Something that's going to be ongoing for another 40 years, no. Anyway, that's my take on rose engines. Other people may have different thought processes about them, but I think it's just a bottomless project. I got a shout out from Joe Pye this week for his, or mention in a video from Joe Pye on his Canon build. Go and check that out too. That's awesome. If you don't follow Joe Piezinski in Texas, he's an awesome guy. I've met him. He's a really nice fella. Does some cool work. He's been making buckets for Canon. There's some conjecture that we're not sure why a Canon needs buckets hanging on it, but that's apparently what they have. And it's a good, fun project, and you learn a lot along the way. His videos are great, and his teaching style is amazing. Joe's a really nice guy. What else have I seen this week on YouTube? Stan Zankowski, keeping like an eye on his channel. It looks like he's bought himself a lathe, production lathe, a hard inch. It looks like it probably needs a lot of work, but we might see a video on that soon. It's sort of one step down the crazy train towards a rose engine, I think. But anyway, you can't tell him that. Yeah, it'd be fun. I'd love a little production lathe, like a hard inch, but it's a big machine to sit around and do nothing with. I'd like a turret for the launch, if anyone knows where there is one. There was one on eBay recently, and I passed it up, and I probably shouldn't have. Anyway, that's 35 minutes. Might call it a night. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's awesome to catch up. It's good to chat. It's good fun to catch up and have some interaction. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you've got the comments turned on live feed, because I do try to read them and answer them, because it's fun to interact with people, and there's usually no real agenda with these videos. It's just we'll go on and see where we end up. So thanks everyone. anyone who features in the comments, go to their page, check out their channel, like their homepage on YouTube, because quite often they have videos that are pretty cool. So go and check them out. Go and check out Chirpy, Cam Battler, Tommy Gun Engineering. Keep an eye on that MD Shunk guy. He's got a set of castings for this little traction engine, and he's got a lathe in his lounge room. You probably should keep an eye on him, because maybe we can persuade him to make one. Who else? Have a look at John Creasy's channel. He's got some cool stuff. He made a chest seat once. I think he's making a boat one now, so we can buy a horizontal mill. But there's lots of good watching there. Lots of cool stuff. You've got to make something one day. Mark, you've got to make something one day. You can't just keep building, collecting stuff, because it just fills up the room, and then there's no room to get in there and make stuff. I know all about that. Anyway, more soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that sort of crap. Check out Patreon. Check out my new video series that's just starting to release on YouTube off my Patreon. This video is 6 months old, like I said, but they're going to be good fun, and it's a nice build. And be kind to each other. More soon, guys and girls.